Eraserhead's AO3, or A Guide on How Not to Seduce Your Best Friend, written by nomumomo, read by Yours Pranks. Relationship tags: Aizawa Shouta, Eraserhead, / Yamada Hizashi, present Mike. Character tags: Aizawa Shouta, Eraserhead, Yamada Hizashi, present Mike. Kayama Namuri, Midnight. Class 1A. General work tags: Fluff, Humor, Crack. Crack treated seriously. Idiots in love. Mutual pining. Friends to lovers. Rated for sexual references, but nothing explicit. If you're not comfortable with suggestive themes, I will have a pinned comment with timestamps to provide warnings for any listeners. Chapter 1. Hizashi, what is fanfiction? Chapter summary. So, there's more of that stuff out there about me? Certainly, my dear Eraser, Hizashi replied. Great. About me and Midnight? About you and Midnight? About you and Joke? Hell, even about you and All Might. Excuse me. What the fuck? There are all sorts of ships in the sea, bro. You just gotta roll with it. There are even people who ship you and me. At this last statement, Hizashi laughed nervously. That was a piece of information Shouta was going to have to think about later. Right now, Hizashi looked uncomfortable at even the idea of being romantically linked to him. Shouta tried not to let it hurt him. He didn't succeed. It was never a good sign when his class was rowdy this early in the morning. Shouta sighed. The eye of the storm was Ashido's desk. She was showing several other students something on her phone, and their reactions were beyond the typical teenage antics. Oh my god, Mina! Kaminari screeched, shoving to get a better look at her screen. She tapped her phone. Here, this isn't even the best one. You have to see this one. Sick, Jiro said, smirking and twirling one of her ear thingies. Bakugo looked genuinely disturbed. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? He grumbled. Hagakuri and Aoyama were just giggling even more stupidly than usual. The bell finally rang, signifying the start of homeroom. Alright, back to your seats, class. Shouta called out, deciding to ignore them and hoping they calmed down. He really had no interest in whatever had caused this commotion. He called attendance. Some of the students fidgeted more than usual, or didn't make eye contact with him when he called their names. Odd. When he called Kaminari, the usually boisterous student kept his head down, stared straight at his desk, and squeaked out a barely audible, Here. Was something wrong? He decided to plow ahead with his lesson plan. Thankfully, the class settled down and behaved almost normally. The period was nearly over when he noticed Ashido scrolling through her phone, thinking she was hiding it behind her book. Ashido, phone, bring it here. The pink-skinned girl turned, impossibly, even pinker. She obeyed and brought her phone to him. It was, of course, locked when she handed it over. That really should have been it. Having her phone taken away for the day and being called out in front of the class really should have been punishment enough. But, unfortunately, Shota's curiosity got the better of him, and, well, if something was going on with his students, he should know about it, right? Unlock this, and show me what you found more important than your lesson. Now the pink-skinned girl turned impossibly pale. She extended a trembling hand, and unlocked her phone, jumping back and retreating to her desk as if it would bite her. Shouta took a look at the screen. There was a lot of text, which surprised him. He started to read. The bondage scarf pinned Midnight's arms and pulled her into his strong embrace. Her heart was racing, pillowy breast heaving, as she looked up into stormy gray eyes. Oh, Eraser, Shouta nearly choked on his own spit. What the hell is this? The tiniest squeak of Ashido's voice replied, "It's just fanfiction, sensei." Despite the fact that his face felt pinker than Ashido's by now. He must have succeeded in looking properly terrifying, because not another peep escaped the rest of the class. "You will stay in your seat and be silent until your teacher comes in for the next period, or every one of you will be expelled." He grabbed his sleeping bag and stormed out. He fled to the teacher's lounge. Thankfully, the one person he wanted to see was there. "What's up, my man?" Hizashi yelled, throwing his arms in the air. Shouta just grunted, which was his usual greeting. 13 was the only other person in the room. They nodded in greeting and went back to their work. Hizashi's eyebrows scrunched together. "Hey, what's wrong? You look upset," he said, slightly more quietly. Shouta sunk into the chair next to his best friend. "I don't want to talk about it." Which was true. He really didn't. He just wanted to be near Hizashi because he was upset, and Hizashi always made him feel better. "Okay, if you say so." Hizashi spun around in his chair a couple times. "Hey, do you want to see my newest batch of cute cat pics?" And just like that, Shouta was able to relax a little. Hizashi showed him some great ones. Foster kittens with pudgy bellies, a ridiculously large and fluffy Maine Coon, even a tiger, curled up in a cardboard box, just like a house cat. Shouta wondered how long it took him to collect this many new pictures. Probably not long. Hizashi was constantly on social media, something Shouta avoided like the plague. So maybe it was through that. He did this regularly, showing new adorable cat pictures as an obvious tactic to cheer Shouta up. And Shouta loved it. The real problem, however, was that Shouta loved him. Shouta indulged himself for a moment and watched his best friend / unrequited love of 15 years. Even in all of the ridiculous trappings of his hero costume, Hizashi was still beautiful. His sunglasses had slid down his cute little upturned nose, revealing bright green eyes under long, blonde eyelashes. Pale freckles dusted his cheekbones, and his smile when he looked at the kittens was his soft, private Hizashi smile, rather than his manic, public, present mic one. He had unzipped his leather jacket while in the teacher's lounge, revealing a rather low-cut white undershirt beneath it. It was a good look, accentuating his toned chest. "Hey, Earth to Shouta." "Huh?" "I asked if you're gonna get takeout and grade together tonight. I'm thinking ramen, like the real stuff, not those horrible packets you eat." "Oh, yeah, that sounds good." Shouta internally thanked himself for his years of work cultivating his resting bitch face, which was now automatically in place, and hid his mortification at being caught ogling. "Then it's a date." Hizashi spun around in his chair again. Shouta really wished he wouldn't phrase it that way. He was sure Hizashi had no idea what it did to him. The rest of the day was uneventful. He was teaching classes other than 1A, so he could push the awkwardness of the morning to the back of his mind. He did have to face Ashido at the end of the day to give her phone back, but thankfully, the girl was just as uncomfortable as he was, and dashed away the second he handed it back to her, with half a bow and a strangled, "Thank you, sensei!" He met Hizashi at his apartment later that evening, carrying the takeout. They usually hung out at Hizashi's place, since it was more comfortable than Shota's truly minimalist space. They finished grading more quickly than expected, and so decided to spend the rest of the night with a beer and some dumb TV. By then, both of them had changed out of their hero costumes, and into something comfortable. Hizashi had given Shouta a drawer to keep clothes in for just this situation, though Shouta preferred to forget his own clothes and have to borrow Hizashi's. Tonight, he managed to snag his favorite pair of Hizashi's, pink sweatpants, and a local cat rescue t-shirt. Hizashi had taken a quick shower as soon as they got to his place, so his long blonde hair was loose and only half dry. With his oversized at-home glasses, it was a cute look for the normally hyper-manicured hero. Finally, Shouta was really beginning to relax. Warm food in his belly, his work done early for the night, Hizashi's clothes on his body, and said best friend / secret love of his life sitting next to him on the couch. By the time he had one beer in him, he was comfortable enough to ask the question that had been bothering him all day. Hizashi, what's fanfiction? Oh no! Hizashi's face split into a shit-eating grin. Have you been reading your own fics? Absolutely not. That's a dangerous game, my friend. Hizashi, I didn't even know that kind of thing existed until this morning, when Ashita was showing the entire fucking class some piece of garbage with me and Nomuri. Hizashi burst out laughing. A midnight eraser ship, huh? He laughed so hard he fell over into Shouta, clutching at himself like he couldn't breathe. I could see it. Eraser night, maybe? Shouta leveled his most terrifying glare. Hizashi just laughed harder. Oh, poor innocent Shouta. He wiped the tears from his eyes, looking up at Shouta from where his head had come to rest in his lap. You sweet summer child. You have no idea what's out there. Shouta wasn't sure which was worse. The fact that there could be more of that awful nonsense out there, or the fact that Hizashi was lying in his lap like nothing could be more normal. He decided to focus on the conversation rather than the warm feeling growing in his belly. You haven't answered my question. Fanfiction is just what you think from the name. Fiction written by fans. It can be about characters from TV, books, whatever. Or it can be about a celebrity. Hero fanfiction is basically its own genre at this point. There are all kinds of stories, but a lot of times it gets into, he waggled his little eyebrows. Romance. Shouta could feel his face burning. But I'm not a celebrity, he mumbled. Hizashi looked thoughtful. I think after you went and looked like such a snack at the press conference, you probably gained a lot of fans. How could he say something like that with a straight face? He really had no idea what he was doing to Shota's poor heart. Shouta stood up abruptly, dumping the squawking blonde to the floor. Well then, I can blame you, since you did my hair, he said, and left for the kitchen. You're welcome! Hizashi's voice carried easily from the other room. Shouta poured himself some cold water and downed it, trying to get his emotions under control. When he felt about as composed as he was going to get around Hizashi, he returned to the living room. So there's more of that stuff out there about me? Certainly, my dear Eraser. Great. About me at midnight. About you and Midnight, about you and Joke, hell, even about you and All Might. Excuse me? What the fuck? There are all sorts of ships in the sea, bro. You just gotta roll with it. There are even people who ship you and me. At this last statement, Hizashi laughed nervously. There are even people who ship you and me. That was a piece of information he was gonna have to think about later. Right now, Hizashi looked uncomfortable at even the idea of being romantically linked to Shouta. He tried not to let it hurt him. He didn't succeed. The blonde continued. I initially wanted to know what people were writing about me, but it's too much to keep up with. My philosophy is to let the listeners have their fun, yo. But I don't need to know the deets. They let the subject drop and both got ready for bed. It was late enough at this point that Shouta just stayed the night. That wasn't unusual for them. Hizashi set out Shota's designated futon, and they went to bed. Shouta, however, got even less sleep than usual, his mind roiling with new questions. Shota's thoughts weren't any clearer in the morning. The most logical thing to do would be to forget he had ever found out about hero fanfiction, much less Eraserhead present Mike fanfiction. But that was easier said than done. He got through his class with 1A by upgrading his usual resting bitch face to resting murder face. It worked. The students were far too frightened to do anything more than meekly take notes. He managed the rest of the day with a similar strategy. He had lunch with Hizashi, as usual, and, thankfully, the other man didn't bring up their conversation from the night before. At the end of the day, he went home to his empty apartment with plans for a quiet evening. He finished his lesson plans for the coming week over instant ramen. His work was done several hours before he planned to go to bed. He had worked out and showered that morning and cleaned his apartment just a few days ago. He was never especially interested in TV, except when he was watching with Hizashi, of course. So he really had nothing to do. He pulled out his phone, and after looking over his shoulder to verify that no one had magically appeared in his apartment to spy on him, pulled up the fanfiction site that Ashido had been on. It wasn't too hard to navigate. He figured out the tags quickly enough. And, because he was apparently a complete masochist, the first search he did was for the present mic / Eraserhead pairing. 3,000 results? He got to reading. Oh, I am so excited for this fic. I'm so excited to podfic this work. I've read this work a few times now, and I've loved it every time. I've made a comment to the author saying that I was trying so hard to find the fic because I didn't have it bookmarked or anything. And I was just like, oh my god, where is it? I can't find it. Because it is such a funny work. I love this author's works so much. I'm so excited to do more of theirs. But the long and short of it is that I love this work so much. I'm so excited to share it with you all. Like I warned in the beginning though, it is a suggestive work. I will have the warnings for that in the pinned comment. So I would like to warn you to be aware of the content and use the timestamps as necessary. But of course, thank you so much for listening to this podfic, and I will see you when I do. Toodaloo!